welcome to another CRIISP Alumni series. Today, I have the founder of National Renewable Network, also known as NRN, Mr. Alan Hunter. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you, Steve.
See how polite I was at the start? I called you Mr. That's how polite I'm going to be kicking off this interview. So as a quick introduction, can you just give us a bit of background to your business and also a bit of a background about yourself as well?
Yeah, definitely. Look, what we're trying to achieve at NRN is to democratise the access to renewable energy. We very much believe that it's a fact that homes, businesses, and everyone needs to transition towards producing or having access to green energy. The barriers of entry that we have today is it costs a lot of money for consumers to purchase these equipment and the liability that they take on once it's installed. So what we're doing at NRN is essentially covering the entire cost for them, and it gets bundled into their energy plan with a partnered energy retailer.
Gotcha. And why, like, even you mentioned about the cost, right? So obviously the cost of installation for solar panels has come down a lot over the last few years. How much is that still a burden for the adoption side?
Yeah, look, we take it into two sides. We're very much looking at solar and battery. There is a lot of solar being installed, and that can cost a consumer anything between $5,000 to $7,000, just depending on what size of system they're looking at acquiring. But really, we're seeing energy prices being very cheap during the daytime because there's a huge influx of solar, which to those actual buying solar independently, the return on investment has actually been extended. So with our systems today, we're looking at solar and battery to be able to help the energy management system within the home, and that alone can cost a customer between $15,000 to $20,000 to add a battery to the home.
So give us some background on the business. When did you actually launch the business? Why? How did you sort of spot this as an opportunity? And sort of what do you see as sort of competition already?
Yeah, look, it's been an ever-growing component. Like we started this in 2019. When I started, it was about a mission to understand how consumers can access these renewable energy assets, and the business has evolved over the last few years to where we are today. Really, look, what's out there in the market, buy now, pay later has been a very popular solution today of consumers accessing these equipment, financing options, or they can purchase it. To do what we're for a consumer to access via an energy plan, it's new. There are a few companies in the market that are offering it, and we do expect to see a lot more consumers adopting to this way of having access to greener energy. The question that we always ask ourselves is it better to own the equipment versus having access to the equipment? And I think there's something to be had there to say, well, through our solution, a consumer can save around 30% of their energy bill with no capital expenditure and with no liability of looking after the hardware. So it's a win-win from day one.
So going from the customer's shoes, they're able to access renewable electricity. They literally go onto your website. They can switch over to a renewable energy-based plan and effectively get the savings of what someone would get if they've already had it installed for some time effectively without the capital outlay.
Yeah, look, very close too. So it's through our partnered energy retailers. So we're not the energy retailer for the consumer. We would refer you to a retailer that's within your area. The estimate savings would generally be about 30% cheaper than the default market offering in the market. If a consumer goes and buys their solar system today, the savings is generally determined by at what time they're going to use energy, because solar generally produces during the daytime. So if they're away from work, at times consumers won't see a significant amount of savings. So yeah, really there's no capital outlay and they can save from day one.
So there's a couple of factors you already talked about, right? So if you look at market thematics, right, this is what I love doing when I sort of break down the way in which I look at a company or the way in which I think about the investment potential of a company, right? Obviously, the area of renewable energy has become red hot over the last few years. And I jokingly said just before this that if you were doing this model 10 years ago, you're going to have a lot more of an uphill sprint to launch, right? But there's a couple of nice things taking place. And if you look at the factors such as Wright's law, where the cost of producing solar energy has come right down and will continue to come down. You mentioned 5 to 7K. You can imagine that that's going to come down a whole lot more. And then likewise, you mentioned about batteries and storage technology. Likewise, the actual cost for storage is also going to come down substantially as well. So If you factor in the third component of this is not only that the more they manufacture, the cheaper it's going to get. The third part is the adoption curves that typically takes place. Now, solar's obviously been around for a long time, sort of in Australia, but when you're removing the barriers to entry, like what you are, where there is no capital outlay, there is no like, and giving access, then all of a sudden you're making it easy for consumers, and those consumers could be, I said the millennial. If you factor in who your target market would be, I imagine it's sort of, obviously you're going to say every homeowner, but it would typically be sort of millennials would be the target. Is that right? Or
yeah, look, definitely. I think there's definitely a huge barrier that hasn't been able to been targeted is the rental market. Our product fits very well with the landlord to tenants because there is no capital outlay. We're currently designing a program where landlords will get paid for letting us use their facility, their property, to provide their tenants cheaper energy solutions. So that. There's about 3.2 million homes renting in Australia, and just under 1% have solar today. So there's a huge market for us to be able to approach in there too.
And if you look at some of the investment, if you look at investment trends, like globally now, we're seeing sort of ESG becoming a popular global trend. So that really sets up for a strong sort of, you've got that potential for infrastructure investment, but then you've got that buying, that purchasing aspect on the other side, which is just such a strong component in the decision-making side. Now, for you, like obviously, I said we've been working with you for some time, and I'd love to, like, I suppose, help people sort of understand your experience. Like I said, there's two parts of this journey, right? There's the role that me and you have to build a business, right? And then there all kinds of that. So I'd love to, at first stage, I'd love to get your take on what it's like for you going through that launch process and building that momentum. And then I'd love to get into the capital raising part.
Yeah, really good question. I came into this with very limited knowledge within the energy sector. So with a mission to democratise renewable, it was a total stranger of a sector. So I needed to make sure I had the right people around.
Inspiring first thought, Alan. Inspiring.
Yeah, it was a crazy journey, but I had to get the right people around me, and there's finding the problems, and I think every time we went deeper and deeper, we found more barriers and then more, I guess, solutions that we could provide. But then it's getting the right people around. So the journey that we've come through here with Wholesale Investors is as an example, is we've had some great introductions to clients. We've had introductions to now directors within our business and advisors as well, who have helped us develop the product that we have today. I think we all kind of think about if I thought of that, 2 years ago, I've been in such a better place than we are right now. But we've taken so many learnings, and we've had so many roadblocks to go, okay, well, that doesn't work. How do we pivot? And that is the journey of creating a business. As long as the foundation mission is there, and we look at it every day, we are going to democratize renewable, and it's exactly what we set out to do. And the road does change quite a bit, but I guess that's part of the journey.
One of my favorite sayings is it only takes one introduction to change the entire trajectory of a business. But unfortunately, we have to meet 100 people to find that one introduction.
100%. No, definitely. And from that, they then know contacts, and that their ideas come into play. And it is, I take this approach, and I came into the industry with limited knowledge. I don't know everything, and I times I state I'm the dumbest one in the room, but really it's collaboratively how we can put the ideas together and again get to that main mission of democratizing renewable energy.
And for you, like when you're thinking about how, when you're thinking about the growth of your business, are you measuring it sort of year on year? Are you measuring it quarter on quarter, month on month? How are you sort of looking at that?
Yeah, look, very much early days, it's very much month on month. Like, yes, we kind of look at what the yearly metric targets would be, but I think today in an early startup, you're looking at what are the tasks that you're ticking off month on month, and it's I can't wait to the day that all we're looking at are these metrics and we're driving growth in that way. But growth in our business today are the big ticket items, tasks, milestones that we're passing to get to that step of I guess the big growth side in our company.
Well, given I imagine there's a B2C aspect of your business and a B2B aspect. So if you think about milestones perspective, I think you mentioned a few and sort of during our working with you. Sometimes building a board is a milestone. Sure, building an advisory board is a milestone for a business, right? Because
100%.
it's you're sort of taking in the capacity of sort of people with sort of 20 to 30 years experience with networks, etc. that literally can introduce you to people that can sort of transform your opportunity. So that's a milestone itself. And then you factor in raising money. That's also another milestone, because effectively you need to be demonstrating that you can raise capital for your business, and then and then the next part is execute on your plans, right? So
100%.
there's all those different factors going through mind. And you mentioned customers. Like how do you, like when you're like, you've got the B2B customers, so you want to give a bit of an insight as to the type of sort of B2B customers you'd work with?
Yeah, definitely. Traditional energy retailers, so those who are a financial market financial responsible market participants who trade within the Australian energy market. They are our customers who essentially are creating the energy solutions or bundles that will include solar and battery. We've through all the modeling that we've created over the past few years, it's been very clear to us that there's a lot of benefit for energy retailers to manage the energy flows appropriately for the consumer to, I guess, have access to a cheaper energy bill. So look, these customers, as for example, one actually came through Wholesale Investor, was an introduction, and they're coming on board, and they're rolling out hundreds of sites that will have solar and battery.
Fantastic.
And will enable customers to go green without that capital outlay.
Brilliant. And for you, as you're thinking about sort of 2022, how does Alan set himself up for success this year?
Yeah, look, lots of processes, procedures at the moment of what we're working through. We're looking to roll out just under 1,000 sites across the country, alongside 4 partnered energy retailers, as a first milestone for this year. Alongside it is we're establishing a fund, and it's the fund that pays for these solar and battery systems. So in our business, we have 3 main stakeholders. We have the consumers and the B2C side, with the B2B side, the energy retailers, and we have investors. And it's all of those 3 parties that work together to make this a reality. So yeah, this year very much it's securing our ESG fund in the investment side. It's securing the partnerships with our energy retailers and building the energy solutions, and introducing the product into the market.
So I assume there's no plans to sleep that much this year.
Not at all.
And also, like, I suppose as a final question for you that I would love to know is that obviously this is you're in an exciting time, right? The launch of a business is exciting. It's filled with anxiety. It's filled with a roller coaster of emotions. You have your ups and downs. You have your wins along the way, which keep you motivated, etc. When you're thinking about what does this look like 5 years from now, right? In fact, and I know it's a big thing because this space is moving very, very fast, and the adoption curve is absolutely like that. So when you're thinking about NRN 5 years from now, how do you imagine this? How do you imagine this business?
Yeah, look, I can. It's one of my strengths at time is to be that visionist essentially and try and guide the pathway. Look, it's in the name of the business, the National Renewable Network. We are a renewable network, but a decentralized network. We see the opportunity here to generate, store, and manage power from decentralized across the country, which can be managed in a centralized environment. And with the introduction of electric vehicles coming into Australia over the coming years, is a huge opportunity for us to get more involved with supporting network stability, working with local distributed networks, working with more retailers, and essentially helping larger sites and more customers being able to go green and make sure that energy is managed accordingly. So there's a huge, I guess, roadmap ahead of us of what we can do, and it's very much there's lots to it. So it's going to be a really exciting 5 years, but we're really setting out to make a big impact, and we've got all the tools. We're building towards all the tools at the moment to make that impact.
And if you think about Bill Gross's famous TED Talk, where he talks about all the reasons startups succeed and the reasons they fail, the number one reason they landed on as to why, when he looked at, I think it was like 400 companies or something that he invested across, was simply timing. And when I sort of look at your business, you're that perfect convergence of technology and generation trends, along with, you mentioned about EVs as another example. Like, I don't think people quite understand how fast that adoption of EVs is going to be over the next 5 to 10 years, and then how quickly the infrastructure funders will then go to make sure that there's the infrastructure in place for it. And then not only, like, if you think about it, in 2023, the cost of an EV will suddenly become less than a typical ICE engine, and that will crank up adoption to another level, combined with, and because it's really determinant on the batteries, right? So effectively, as that cost comes down, further down, I said all these factors that you're sort of in alignment with really work to play hard. So I can imagine I can imagine how that aligns with your vision.
Yeah, it does. And it's, again, I've only been in this space really for just over 2 years, and how quick it's moved in 2 years, incredible. And yeah, look, the management of energy is the next big thing. We call virtual power plants, distributed energy resources. These are two big elements that we're going to start seeing over the next few years to how they're being managed, and how companies or individuals are being rewarded for managing the energy efficiently.
We did a session with the Alexis team, and Bevan, who's the sort of chief engineer, he had this great insight into I suppose the future of energy. He said the first layer of energy is, and I know we've talked about this before, the first layer is, you know, solar, the production via solar and wind and so forth. And then he said the second layer is basically the storage of the energy. And then the third layer is microgrids. Right, and then the fourth layer is the individual homes basically powering themselves. And it's so funny, you can see these thematics actually already playing out, even though this will be a sort of 20 to probably 50-year journey as a transition.
100%. It's incredible, and when you get into the microgrid space, it's incredible. Now the fact we are generating power from the end of the supply chain, it's how if we can manage that efficiently, we would have multiple, I guess, microgrids, and yeah, when we involve EVs into the situation, we're now moving energy from on a road essentially from A to B, and yeah, it's going to be really exciting. Like there's a lot of different concepts and new businesses and ideas that are coming to the market, but it is all about timing. It really is.
So it's a great point you mentioned about new bit. So what's also is beautiful about that is you'll have a whole bunch of sort of there'll be like how you're building a fund. There'll be other commercial opportunities that get created around the outside of this, as with every new sector. And that's, to me, what makes this space additionally exciting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally agree.
Well, mate, really enjoyed the interview. Now, obviously, we've enjoyed we enjoy working with you to promote the business and help, you know, as I said, attracting capital, and you mentioned about building your team and, you know, building your advisory board and sort of attracting clients. The next step, obviously, looking forward to working with you on your fund. This is an area which, you know, WI is obviously, and CRIISP is very passionate about for playing a role from an innovation perspective. And simply said, the time is, all the previous debates about this whole area actually just get completely washed away, just because now it's just logical and it's just happening because the cost difference just makes so much sense. So Thank you very much for joining, mate.
No, thank you.